大家好，我是婷婷. I'm so happy to welcome you to Franklin River, and today I have two goals. My first goal is to tell you what it was like to grow up in Australia, and my second goal is to show you this beautiful place. Let's get started. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe and share. At the moment, I'm trying really hard not to scare the sheep behind me. I scared a few of them. They seem okay. They keep looking at me suspiciously. I know that a lot of my subscribers would like to know more about what life is like in Australia, and I thought I would actually start with what it's like to grow up in Australia and how all of that works. And I'll probably make more videos that are a bit more specific later, so maybe about schooling or about finding work and things like that, if you're interested. I was thinking, obviously the first thing that happens when you come into the world is you're born. I was born in a public hospital, so that was my first experience with the hospital system here in Australia. And in the public hospital system, we actually have a system called Medicare, which is our public health system. And it's actually really great. So every person who has Australian citizenship or Australian permanent residency will be on the Medicare system. You pay for Medicare, but you actually only pay for Medicare if you earn over a certain amount of money. And I actually don't earn enough money to pay for Medicare, so I get public health care completely free in Australia, which is amazing, and I always took it for granted until I realized that in places like America, you don't get any health care unless you have your own health insurance, unless you pay for health insurance, and quite often that's paid by your employer, but not always, depending on what kind of job you have. So I feel really grateful for the healthcare system in Australia, and you know, most things are covered under Medicare. So most things, definitely anything life-threatening, anything urgent, I could get those medical services for free. So my mum didn't have any private health insurance at the time when I was born, because I was an accident. I was a surprise, let's say. So I was born in a public hospital. It was fine. Basically, the difference between a public hospital and a private hospital is a private hospital you can choose to pay money, you can choose to have extra insurance to be treated a little bit better. The standard of healthcare is the same, like the doctors all have the same training, but maybe in a private hospital, after you've had your baby, you'll have your own room, you won't have to share a room with anybody, whereas maybe in a public hospital, after you've had your baby, you'll be sharing with 2, 3 or 4 other women who have babies as well. So that's basically the difference. I don't remember anything about my birth, but I have been told that I was born early by cesarean section because I was not breathing in the womb. I'd stopped breathing every time my mum had those practice contractions. They took me out and then I was fine. So I was really tiny when I was born, and I see these pictures of my dad holding me and I was really small. But I lived because I don't give up. So that was it. My mum and dad were newly married. They had just bought a house. That's the great Australian dream, is to own a house. 35 years ago, when I was born, that was something that was very achievable here in Perth, Western Australia. Now that is not as achievable. It's very difficult for young people to buy houses. Houses are just more expensive. The cost of living has gone up, so the amount of money that you have left to buy a house is not as much. People still do it. Lots of people are still buying houses, but not everybody buys a house now. Lots of people just end up renting for a long time, and it's just because it's not as easy now. But my parents had built their first house. It was in an area where there were a lot of new houses going up, so we call those sandpit suburbs, where basically it's just a bunch of sand and then a whole bunch of people build new houses there. That's the cheapest way to build a new house. but it also means that maybe that place doesn't have all of the services yet that you need. So there might not be shopping centres there yet. You might have to drive to a separate place and then wait for more people to move into that area and for more things to be built. So that's me when I was a little baby. And next I'm gonna show you a different part of the farm here, and I'll tell you a bit about my early childhood. Okay, well, what was my childhood like? Well, first we lived in that house in the Sandpit suburb, but then after my little sister was born, she was born 2.5 years after me, and then about 5 years later, so about when I was 7 or 8 years old, my parents decided that they wanted to move to the country. We didn't actually move to the country, but we moved to a place which was about a 45-minute drive away from the city, and it was a place that was in the hills and it was in the bush. Wow, those birds are loud. They look like they were a kind of cockatoo, like a white bird with a yellow belly. Oh, my legs are getting tired. Whoa, there's a lot of ants there. Australian bull ants can be pretty dangerous because their bite really hurts, so I'm just waiting for them to run away. Sorry guys, home was under that rock. Okay, so in Australia, we don't usually live with our extended family, so our grandparents will live separately. So it was just mum, dad, me and my little sister. And mum and dad really wanted to live in a place that wasn't in the city. They wanted us to have more space to run around. This isn't my home. I didn't live on a farm. I didn't live on a place like this. And so therefore, I don't know what this equipment is, but it looks like harvesting equipment. So it looks like definitely stuff that people who grow crops would use. Our property was a pretty big property, but my dad was really into growing fruit trees. We actually had a stream running through our property. We had so many different types of fruit trees. We had 2 ponds. We had a cat. We didn't have a dog. My parents aren't really dog people, but we had a lot of ducks. And we had chickens as well. So we had a really happy childhood. We had a lot of being outdoors, a lot of running around, a lot of creating, building, making, playing, playing with the neighbors' kids. After school, because school wasn't really difficult, especially in the, sort of year 1 to 5, like not difficult at all, really. We would get a bit of homework, but not very much. Very, very different from what I see kids doing in Taiwan. So we would come home from school, do half an hour of homework, maybe an hour of homework, and then we would be able to play until dinner time. So school would end at about 3 o'clock. We would come home, have a snack, homework until about 3:30 until 4:30, and then 4:30 until 6 o'clock we could play, we could build houses outside, we could play with the animals, we could do all that stuff until 6 o'clock when mum called us in for dinner. I have really, really fond memories of my childhood because I think that my parents gave me a really fun childhood. And when I was 11, my youngest sister, who you would have seen in some of my Taiwan videos, particularly the one where we ate breakfast in Taiwan, that was a very popular video, she was born at that time. So that really kept us busy for a long time. So basically through my teenage years, I had a little baby sister, which was really fun because I've pretty much always known what kids like. And now I work with kids as well. So I feel like I'm never really going to grow old, and that's a really positive thing. So I think now we've talked a little bit about school, but you probably want to know a little bit more about what it's like to be a school kid in Australia. So let's go find another place and talk about that.